in Canada, and this is really true around the world, is that, you know, obviously our daily lives have changed dramatically. The way that we go to work, school, you know, everything that we do in terms of social encounters, travel, has all been impacted dramatically. And everything has been shifted and propelled into a virtual world. And so e-commerce has dramatically changed and will continue to see huge inclines as we can move forward, even beyond this pandemic. So you can see here in this chart that in 2019, in the retail Canadian market, that e-commerce sales represented about 6.8% of our total sales. But you can see in 2020 that propelled up, and then it's projected to continue to grow as we move into 2024. And so this is, we knew online was important before, but now we know it's absolutely critical because customers have really shifted to shopping online, and 1/3 of customers are actually using e-commerce on their mobile devices. So this chart just shows you how the business has changed in terms of the categories. So you can see the ones on the left in orange are the ones that reflect where declines have taken place. And then there are still industries that are doing better. Like general merchandise, actually in general, has been performing and had increases via their online, the online network. Food and beverage have continued to see inclines. So I think what's great about this chart is it gives us hope that there are ways in which for us to convert our inventory to cash, because the customers are out there shopping and looking for these products and services. So it's a new day. So let's think about what yesterday used to look like. So yesterday we used to rely heavily on foot traffic. We would benefit from the pure location of our campus stores. We were right there on campus, so we had the benefit of the proximity. We could connect with our customers in person, and we certainly could leverage all of the campus events that were taking place, convocation, any family or parent events, and of course orientations. But today, we can no longer rely on those same things. So what are we relying on? The website. Online shopping, the use of e-commerce is huge dependency. We have more dependency on the digital and virtual world. So how we reach out to customers has to be done very differently. We can still create a personal connection, but we need to do that without personal contact. So that's where the digital and the virtual world will help us to do that. And then we can still participate in campus events, those that are done virtually. So we just have to be in search of what those opportunities are and make sure that we lean in and focus on those. So first of all, we have to know what is it that we have. So, so for those of you that actually have a budget at the department and class level, then you have the visibility to be able to see like how you're tracking and which categories are performing well and which categories are performing not as well, and where you have the heaviest inventory. You need to assess really like what the positives and negatives are in regards to sales, but also where are you over and under inventory. Then you want to evaluate like what metric am I looking at now? So we all know like what key metrics we used to look at when we could rely on the foot traffic and the more traditional way of retail in days past. But now we have to really examine our KPIs in a different way. So, and something I always like to share is that whenever you can measure how you're doing, even if it's not the performance you would desire, you can start to improve that. So let's go ahead and look at something I put together. This is a simple assessment. And so what I've done here, and I've actually done this with many of my clients, is, if there is a plan, then we can easily start to compare and see where we're over and under. But if, let's say that we only have a plan at a department level, so total clothing, for instance, and we don't have a plan at the lower level categories, then you can still do a simple assessment such as this in order to evaluate where you're at so that you can then make decisions on how to prioritize and take action. So this particular analysis shows you the categories within the clothing department, perhaps, and then how much inventory we have. And then it looks at the last 3 months of sales for last year, and then the last 3 months of sales for this year. And the reason I do that is it's a short period of time that will allow us to get a sense for the trend. And so in this case, you can see, for instance, in every scenario, the categories for this year are down to last year. So last year in outerwear, we did $39,000, and this year in outerwear for the last 3 months, we did $14,000. So you can see that, and this is the reality of where we are today. So then I just have a formula in here to calculate, well, what is my average weekly sales, so that I could then move to a KPI that will help me to evaluate where am I the most heaviest in inventory, and where do I perhaps need to take some additional action so that I can take that inventory and convert it to cash. And so here you can see that the two highest weeks on hand categories are t-shirts and outerwear. And so what's important to see here is that they're all these weeks on hand performance metrics are actually higher than you might normally like to see. But in today's retail environment, we're trying to simply assess, evaluate, and prioritize so we can take action on the things that need the most attention. So in this case, it's t-shirts and outerwear that are the most heaviest. And so that might lead me to the next step, which is how do I drill down and figure out what is it that I have within those categories that I could potentially then reach out to the customers via online or via social media or via other virtual avenues to create an excitement to convert to cash. So the next thing I like to do is to evaluate an item rank process. And so this is a really simple way that I like to work with my clients on evaluating and identifying the ranking by item. So I just use a simple, I want to take all my items and I want to see which ones are my top sellers, my bottom sellers, and my middle sellers. So you can see here, I use a very simple formula in which to do that. I determine what the average is for that category, and then I apply that to each individual SKU. And if a SKU is 50% less or less than the average, then they're a bottom seller. If the SKU is 150% over the average, then it's considered a top seller. And anything in between is considered the middle. And the reason I do this, the reason I think this is really important is because I can then start to focus on the top and the bottom, because the middle is going to kind of work itself out. So I really want to just focus on the top and the middle. So let me show you an example of how I actually drill down to an item rank summary for outerwear. So outerwear was one of the two categories that was the most heavy in terms of inventory. And the reason that I wanted to focus there is because it's a seasonal category. I know I still have great opportunity to sell outerwear this time of the year because it's cold out. And so therefore, I want to drill down and focus and see what items I can start to convert to cash. And so I want to prioritize and take action based on this information. So you can see for outerwear, I was able to categorize it. And so there were 94 SKUs in total. And there are 19 SKUs that are classified as top sellers, which means that they sold more than 150% of the average for that category. And there are 46 bottom sellers, which means they sold less than 50% of the average. You can see the current inventory value of the bottom sellers is about $8,000, and the top seller is about $21,000. So even though we own more in the top seller, we are selling through that much faster. And so therefore, I want to focus energy on the bottom sellers. And so in this case, the bottom sellers activity would be in terms of what action we should be taking is, well, we should probably promote it. We should consider if we want to bundle it with something that is doing very well, that in order to increase the overall basket of the transaction, or if we need to liquidate it. Now, before we take any of these actions in today's world, because most activity is happening online as opposed to in store. So before, what I would tell you if you had customers in person in the store is, you should, if something's not selling, you would move it. You would then, to give it more visibility, you would promote it, and then you would liquidate. But now with online activity, you can't really, you can give it more visibility via your virtual opportunities as well as your online. So, but you just have to think about that differently. So in terms of top sellers, you want to make sure you continue to stay in stock, that you perhaps continue to feature those items, and you continue to expand them. So, so this whole ranking process allows you to focus on the items that need greater attention and items that you want to move so that you can convert it to cash. And so I often get asked, because sometimes some of the action requires that we take something to a steeper than desired price reduction in order to move the inventory. And I often get asked about, again, the profitability. And so when we're in this state of wanting to move through inventory that we've now been sitting with perhaps longer than normal because of our current situation, then that's where I think it's more important to convert it to cash than it is to look at the pure profitability. So, so I think that that's, again, as we talk about converting to cash, it's sometimes we have to give up profitability in order to convert that inventory to cash. So I'm going to pause here and see if anybody has any questions. I don't think we specifically said if you had questions, you can put them in the chat, but I can't see the chat right now. And so I was wondering if there were any questions. I don't know, Steve or Greg, if you could share that.
Nope, no questions at this point, and we want people to put them into the quick Q&A section, not chat.
Oh, the Q&A. So okay, great.
Verify, yeah.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and keep going. And by the way, these are both simple templates that I have created for many of my clients. And so if anybody is interested in wanting to get their hands on a very simple template, you can reach out to me after this session, and I'm happy to share those with you. Okay, so when we talk about the action today is very different than the action that we would have taken when we had foot traffic, the reliance of foot traffic in the store. So we still want to engage with our customers, but the way that we're going to engage with our customers is predominantly online. We may still have some of your stores are still open, limited hours, and so therefore you will still have some foot traffic, but overall student populations are way down. And so, so online is where we're seeing the biggest growth, and then marketing outreach. And I know that earlier there was a session on social media, and I think yesterday there was a session on online. And so I'm sure you brought a lot of tips from, or learned a lot of tips from those two, but I'm just gonna give you a few additional tips that pertain specifically to this process of when we're looking at the actual product assortment and the items that we have where we want to move that inventory. And so one of the things that I always liked, so think about the online is the #1 place where people are seeing who you are and giving them an opportunity to connect with you. And so very much like the store, the atmosphere is really important. And so you want to make sure that you are relating with your customers at a much deeper level from a merchandise standpoint. And so here's a great example I wanted to share of the University of Toronto. When you go to their landing page, you actually see a customer. And so this will immediately create that connection with whoever is landing in this page. More so, than if it was just a static picture or if it was a lot of verbiage on your landing page. So, so you still want to think about merchandising your online in order to convert that inventory. And I know it's just different than the way we used to have to do it when we had the use of the floor and the sales and the ability to see people in person. So you have to still continue to try to convey that atmosphere and connection with the customer. So also, I don't know, you may have noticed there are lots of other retailers that are also using video within their landing pages. So not just images, but with live customers representing their personality, but also with video. So that's another way that you could create more excitement. I also encourage that the landing page get changed regularly. So you may have in the past changed your landing page less frequently based on like the term, but now you need to think of it as this is how you can freshen up. And so those, in some cases, like say you're going to run a flash sale on some of those bottom sellers, then you might have a landing page for a week that talks to that with, and then whatever your next event is or promotion, you're going to move forward with those changes. So definitely the online shifting your emphasis from in-store activities to online activities has been pretty dramatic for all retailers. And so you want to make sure that you're allocating appropriate time to manage your digital presence. And I know that goes without saying, but it's really hard. It's hard to get staff, it's uncomfortable perhaps to move that way. So, so one of the things too is I know everybody's probably been working very hard getting all their items on the website, and that in itself takes a lot of time and resources. So if you're still working on that process, or as you continue to work through getting new things on, you want to one thing I recommend is prioritize adding items. You want to definitely get your top items on the website first, but then I would recommend your bottom items next. And the reason I would do that is because those are the items that you're going to want to feature and highlight to your customer. And so therefore you're going to want to make sure you have those on there so that you can convert those to cash. So I always would focus on the top and then the bottom. And again, the middle ones you can fit in there if you've already completed the top and the bottom sellers. Again, your banners you want to change at least once a month because you want to create that connection with your customer. And this is an example, like this is an example where there's live like customers representing the product. This is a Canadian store on the left. And then here I wanted to share, these are actually banners from University of Tennessee. And I think they've done a good job. Again, it's relevant because it's showing their customers wearing masks, and we all are wearing masks now. So it just creates that connection. And when you create that connection and that engagement, then your customer is going to continue to want to shop through your site. Something else that to help you convert your inventory to cash is connecting with your customer. And one big way in which you can do that is by capturing your customer data and or their feedback. So this is two great examples. The one on the left here is actually UBC, where they, as soon as you go on their website, they actually ask you if you want to sign up for your newsletter. And I know many of you probably already have that functionality, but if you don't, that's a really important thing because you can collect that information, which means then you can later send them information, whether it's special offers or things that you're running to help you convert that inventory to cash. So what I really liked about the UBC one is that they actually asked you even some questions about yourself so that they could target even more so. So they asked if you were a student at a specific campus, and they asked if you were a faculty or staff. If you didn't choose any of those and you just submitted it, I don't know what they do with that list, but I would recommend that you could ask if you're a parent, you could ask if you're an alum. So then you could then start to use that to target. Again, if you have alumni merchandise you're trying to convert to cash, now you can create your own targeted email list for alumni in order to send them a communication via email. The one on the right, I really like this one because it actually is engaging with the customer with a survey, and so they're learning more information, but they also are collecting the email address if they don't have it already, and the customer wins a chance to get a gift card. And so again, you're creating something of an engagement here for your customers. And these are really simple things that, as I said, I'm sure many of you are doing those, but I just wanted to highlight those. The other thing, 75% of shoppers, customers, people use Google in order to find a product or a service. And we want them to find you. So before you had proximity, because campus students would come to your store. Now they have to find you online, and that's a little harder to do. So Google My Business is a great way to help you raise your visibility to the online network. And so it helps you create more visibility. It helps to optimize for Google Maps. So even though people aren't going to locations, they're still curious about where you might be located. It displays really important information. So you see here on the right of this screen, it shows, you know, the address and the phone number, but you could also, there's an option in Google My Business to put orders. So it would say orders, and then you could put your link for shopping in there. Even though they could click on the website, Gen Z especially, they want it super easy, and they're going to click on the link if they want to order something. The other thing is you could add, there's a health and safety. So then you could put a few things that are very specific to your store in regards to any, if you are open, to any health and safety rules. That's really important. People want to know what's going on and if you're open or if you have limited hours. So Google Your Business is a way to really elevate your visibility with your customers. And this is a great, like this, I didn't show an example where sometimes over to the right here where it actually shows the website, it actually brought back, it delivered the results for Dalhousie University. It doesn't, sometimes you'll notice that other services, it doesn't deliver that to the right. And if you don't get that on the right, a customer will usually keep going. So Google My Business makes sure that you have everything on here to make it easy for your customer to find you. Okay, so I wanted to move on to marketing because this is really where we want to share some really great examples that have been done by Katrina. And so, so we want to talk about marketing and customer engagement are two really critical things. And marketing was something people used to dabble on, but you got to think about, but now marketing is even more important because of the digital and the virtual way in which people are communicating. And you know, Gen Z, they've grown up with technology. Like they're not like those of us who are a little older who didn't grow up with it, but have become very dependent on it. But Gen Z, they grew up with it. So to them, it's like second nature. And so they expect a lot more. So these are just some points that I wanted to make sure was in the presentation, but we're going to show you some real examples on some of these. And many of you are probably already doing this, but it's just a good reminder. So you need to make sure you have a marketing plan. And I know that that takes, that requires you to adjust your resources, like who does the marketing plan and how do you focus on that? And we're going to share with you some of the ways in which you can leverage other people on campus or perhaps in your store to do that. So it's important to target. Email communication is still really important, but what you want to try to do if possible is take your email list and create segmentations with that list, because then you could really create more of that personal connection with those individuals who've already subscribed to your email list. So obviously newsletters is a great way to communicate. information. Sorry, it says, I don't know what that word's supposed to say, but it's supposed to say information, invitations that you could invite them, even though you can't really, they're not coming to your store, you could invite them to maybe watch one of your videos or do something going on in campus that's virtual. And then you could collaborate with other departments too, and perhaps leverage their email list by sending them information that you want them to then forward on your behalf. So email is still an important way of communicating. It does feel a little bit like school for students. I have heard many students in the focus groups I've conducted say it still feels a little bit like school, but if you make the message really targeted and it's easy for them to take action on it, then they usually respond pretty well. And then of course, social media is another really great way to connect with your customer. And it's becoming even more important now than ever before. And that's not going to change. The importance and reliance of social media will continue to grow. And so therefore you have to have consistency in the way you execute that. And I know that you had a session earlier, and I'm sure that they gave you a lot of great tips. So here are just some of the other things that I also reinforce in terms of the frequency and the way in which you should utilize your social media. So we're going to share some examples with you on this. So before we head into our examples, I want to share, this is actually from a study that took place in 2019, and it was by Riddle and Bloom. And this shows you for Gen Z some of the ways the way social media is being used. And so it was a student survey. And so, starting at the top, the number 5 point is that social media is used almost 40% of the time when shopping in stores. So even when they were shopping in your store, they were actually also still using social media. So I think that's really good to know, because when in-store shopping starts to pick up again, you're still going to want to not reduce your emphasis on social media. It says that almost over 50% are influenced by social media or social media posts or stories. And so I had read another statistic over about a year and a half ago that said that 50% of Gen Z learns about products and services on YouTube. And we know that that number's probably even grown more so since that, over a year ago. Over 20% get their news from social media. And well, actually almost over 70% get their news from social media. Over 20% use social media 4 to 5 hours a day, and almost 50% use social media 2 to 3 hours a day. So imagine that they're spending 2 to 3 hours a day on social media, and you want your campus stores to show up on that feed at some point in that 2 to 3 hour time. So it's a really important way to connect and grow your customer base. I'm able to gather a variety of different data from different other campus retail stores. And I wanted to share this benchmark with you because this is where, so you can see here on the top that this is showing you for Canadian stores. And this is a select group of Canadian store data that I had. And this data is probably about 2 months old. It's dynamic, by the way. So social media data is very dynamic because it changes every day because more people start following you. And so you can see here on Facebook that for the benchmark group of universities that I used, that on average, they have 140,000. The university page has about 140,000 followers on their Facebook page. And in Instagram, they have about 47,000 followers. But you can see that for the select group of those same groups of universities, I looked at the specific campus stores, and you can see that the benchmark, we have about 4,000 followers in Facebook and about 4,600 in Instagram. And so therefore, the market share is roughly 3.1% or 9.7% respectively when you look at Facebook and Instagram. And by the way, there's 2 in that group that are pretty high in Instagram, which really drive that number up a little bit. So, and Instagram is the first platform of choice for Gen Z. and therefore would be the place if you had to focus your time on where you want to show some of your products and give them, tell your stories, show products, and connect with your customer. Instagram would be the place to go. I also put in here for you the US, just so you could see. So you can see the US has done a better job with their Facebook, but they have a lot of room to grow with Instagram too. And so I wanted you to see here that you actually, as a collective group, for the selected stores I had captured data for, are actually doing much better in Instagram than the US stores are doing. So again, this is how you can engage with your customer. You want to make sure you're doing relevant posts, and this will help you to grow not only your connect with your customers, but actually grow your business and convert that inventory to cash. So one last thing before we move on to some real live examples is that Hubspot, in case this has not been shared with you in the past, it is a great resource for free resources. So this is an example of actually a marketing calendar. One shows a month at a time, and the other shows by day, where you might want to log your posts and or ideas, your strategies. And so, so if you haven't already gone to Hubspot, that is a really great place. They also have free classes too. So if you want to learn more about marketing or social media or specific things, they actually have some free training as well. So I always like to recommend that, because marketing has shifted and become such an important part of our business that we're all still learning. And so I wanted to make sure everybody do that. All right, so now I'm going to turn it over to Katrina.
To Katrina. Okay,
thanks.
So
I can't see you, but I hear you.
Okay, good. So I just wanted to start off with a brief overview about Dalhousie University, and also how the Dalhousie University bookstore worked during this pandemic. So Dalhousie University is a medium-sized campus with about 20,000 full-time students. And this year we actually had a higher enrollment than in previous years, which was great. And pretty much all of the classes were held virtually. So we don't have really any students on campus besides a few that are in residence at this point in time. So the physical Dalhousie bookstore was closed, as well as the website, for 2 months. And then we reopened the website in May for curbside pickup and ship outs until November. So we were online only from May to November. And then in November, mid-November, we opened for several hours a day, opened the store. And we are still open today, which is great. And it's lovely to see students back on campus and back in the store. So as most of the stores on this call, everybody had to pivot really quite quickly to move any GM items onto their website, which weren't currently already on their website. So we also did that. Probably took us about 2 months to get almost 95% of all of our logoed items online, and it's still a work in progress. But then came the question of, the stock is there, how do we drive customers to our website? So my role as a buyer pretty well shifted from being a buyer to a marketer in order to drive customers to our website. So prior to COVID, our marketing plan pretty well consisted of 3 to 4 large key events throughout the year, and then there was social media as well as newsletters that would promote those 3 or 4 events. So there was definitely room for improvement, specifically within social media. And as Denise had mentioned, that is where Gen Z and our students get most of their information. So our marketing really need to become way more aggressive. And so I started to work much more closely with the marketing team within ancillary services. And we seconded 2 people, 2 like social media savvy staff that had a bit of capacity from other divisions within ancillary services to actually help out with our Instagram posts. So Step one of how I ended up creating a more detailed marketing plan was I actually looked at the Facebook pages of several university bookstores across Canada and looked at what they were promoting throughout the year, as well as what their contests were and what products they were actually featuring. Then from that information, I pulled out what promotions would I like to implement in our marketing plan for a whole 12-month period of time. And then I drilled down that marketing plan to a more detailed weekly level. As you can see in Denise's slide, which is up there, is 2 weeks from our marketing plan. I know it's very, very tiny. You might need a microscope to look at it. But so if you look at week 3, it's broken down into the top panel is holiday special events or recognition events. So that's everything from November 16th on the slide was Have a Party with Your Bears Day, as well as more key items where our bookstore and Truro, as well as on the main campus, was actually reopening to the public that week, and our in-store pickup location had changed. Then further down, you look at a store-wide or category promotions. So that week we had free shipping on GM orders over $75 and a promotion on purchasing your textbooks early before January rush. That's followed by featured products. Now, if you were in the session earlier on today, Kate and Hannah talked about not just having your social media be promotion, promotion, and promotion, but for it to be well balanced with information, promotion, as well as product features. So within product features for this week, I talk about a family feature. As we know, before Christmas, the mom, dad, and grandparent products sell really, really well with the student base. So we did a feature on that, as well as there are web links and also the type of content that feature is. And I'll talk about that in the next slide over. So there's also another promotion on backpacks, because that is one of our bottom sellers. We had quite a bit of backpacks left over after September rush. So that was an area that we thought would be a key feature to focus on this week. We have new product arrivals and any informational messages. So this goes from a really high level 30% off backpack promotion to a very, very detailed level of what information do we want to promote that week, what products do we want to promote, as well as what new features or products do we want to highlight throughout the week. Now, for me, I would like to at least have 3 key items, 3 key different items that can have 3 separate posts throughout that week, so that we can reach our target of having 3 Instagram posts or reels per week. And all of this information helps feed our weekly newsletter. So, and as I mentioned before, in the past, we weren't as consistent. So this allows us to be way more consistent with our marketing approach, so that we can make sure that we have those 3 posts as well as enough information for the newsletters.
Katrina, what I think is also great that you've done, and I'd like you to share with the team, and again, I think Katrina said it right. She had to go from being a buyer to a marketer. I think that's what retail is. Like, you are not just buying the product, but you have to make sure that it gets to your customer via marketing, and obviously online and social media is a way that we have to rely even more heavily on today than ever before. But that's really, like, that's where everybody's roles are shifting. But recognizing that shift will help you, like, follow it all the way through. But Katrina, you said one of the reasons why you also did spent the time on this detailed calendar, which I think is fantastic, is because you were working with others who may not have known all that you know about the product, and this was a way for you to share some of those key messages and information.
Yeah, and so that's really about the key learning and sort of the information flow. For me, I populate this data about 3 to 4 weeks before the beginning of the month that we want to promote. So again, back to the session earlier on today, you do need to leave enough time for any creative folk to be able to take photos or graphic designers to create graphics. I brief my director plus the marketing manager and the marketing coordinator 3 weeks out before the beginning of the month. And then there's another meeting 2 weeks out before the beginning of the promotional month with the social media staff and any other bookstore employees that may be impacted by these promotions. So, and that, to Denise's point, we have web links throughout this entire detailed plan that links back to the actual products, because these people that are helping out in marketing may not even be, they're not from the bookstore. They're not familiar with the products at all. So you almost have to sell them about the product. And it's very important to have these monthly education sessions with the people that are going to be promoting your products, because they see how excited you are about it. And they also see where you want to have emphasis. And maybe, Denise, if you could go to the next slide. Right. So, and again, I just wanted to highlight where we've actually categorized each type of promotion so that it's either a one-day sale, a category offer, a weekly sale, a large seasonal. You can read the rest. And then what type of social media or marketing applies to each one of those types of promotions. So again, it makes it very easy if we need to have somebody else jump in to that social media post, because we don't have a permanent position for that right now. These people are just sort of helping, these tech social savvy people are just helping us out right now. So if going forward we get a co-op student, they'll be able to look at this plan and be able to really run with it a little bit easier than if we didn't have key metrics of what was supposed to be promoted. So I just want to kind of go over some of the key learnings of putting all this together and what promotions have worked well for us and what hasn't. So there's just a few more points I'd like to talk to you about this. So not all of our promotions have worked well, but the best one so far, I would say, is our Student Appreciation Day, which was linked into International Students Day. And we offered 25% off all clothing for one day only. And we had about a 300% increase in sales for that one day, which I felt was a really good success. And at that time, our store was closed and we were only doing online sales, as well as our cyber sale campaign. We have a huge sale in November that has like thousands of people in a very small space. And we knew that we wouldn't be able to do that this year with COVID and the university being pretty well locked down. So we pivoted and moved the sale online. It obviously did not have the sales volume, but it did meet and exceed our sales target goals by 32%. So overall, we were very happy with that, and we tried out some different social paid advertising. So again, we're continuously learning and trying to pivot and adjust while we're learning of what works well and what doesn't. And also, we're really trying to push contests. I know that Hannah and Kate talked about contesting. We hardly did any online contests in the past, and we thought that it'd be a good way to kind of grow our followers, and growing followers is much harder than I thought it would be, but we're making small incremental steps, which is great. But one word for the wise, and we've had very good responses to all of the contests that we've done. But one bit of advice is, if you are going to be doing contests, you might want to limit where the applicants can be from, either Canada or North America, so that you're not shipping prizes all over the world. And then what I found quite interesting is that certain items just didn't sell well online at all. No matter how much we promoted them, how much we discounted them, they really sell well in store. So as soon as we opened our doors, stationery started to fly off the shelves. But we had a really hard time selling stationery online. And for whatever reason, the same thing with drinkware. We had very poor sales with drinkware online, but as soon as we opened the doors, the drinkware started to sell. And this whole exercise has really made it very obvious to me that it's very important to have somebody on your team, whether or not it's a co-op student, whether or not it's somebody seconded from a different area, whose main focus is really about social media and trying to make sure that you have your posts consistently and working on your e-newsletters consistently. So, and then this slide here is just some examples of some of the newsletters that we have. And our banner on our website is, everything's coordinated. So the banner on our website changes weekly, as well as our newsletters, which come out weekly, which have the same look and feel as the banner on the website, plus the social media posts. So everything really has a cohesive, consistent look and feel and message, which I thought was really quite important. Okay, back to you, Denise.
And then you had this one outreach that you did too.
Okay, yes, sorry. So around Christmas time as well, our social, a special orders buyer put together gift pack ideas that she sent out to departments that she consistently worked with. And so this really helped us manage some of the products that we had lots of stock of, and kind of coordinated and managed what they might want to buy for gifts for their staff for Christmas, because none of the departments had staff parties, but they still had budget to spend on staff. So we looked at that as an opportunity, and we also sent out this email for any departments that contacted us for gift ideas over the Christmas holiday period.
Great. So again, this is a great example of collaborating with the departments and giving them like a personal shopping experience via like a catalog or a flyer, so that they can see. And as Katrina said, some of these were things that they were heavy in inventory. And so it's okay to go ahead and bundle things together, and maybe you even offer a slight discount if they buy a bundle, if it's something that you have excess inventory in and that you are interested in converting that inventory.
Denise, you're muted.
Okay, sorry, I'm back now. So this is, Katrina, do you want to talk a little bit about the cause marketing?
Sure. So cause marketing was something that we had not dabbled in the past, but I saw that it was something that continuously reappeared, that appeared on several other university bookstores, Facebook events and accounts. So, and I noticed that Brock spoke to that as well, and they consistently do a cause marketing event either before Christmas. So we wanted to give back to our community, so we came up with this idea to sort of work with Giving Tuesday and to do 10% of all of our sales for that one particular day, to give that to the food bank on campus.
Yeah, so the important thing about, so again, this is a way that you can create excitement and convert that inventory to cash, but you're also giving back to a good cause. You're partnering with either somebody on a group on campus or a nonprofit, so that and Gen Z is very socially conscious, and is very interested in making sure that the way they spend their dollars is making a difference in the world too. So that's why I wanted to. And then these were just some other images that represent the student customer, which will create a deeper connection. So one last thing before we is role shift. So Katrina and I, as we were working together, she asked me, she's like, so should I have a dedicated marketing person, or how do we, shift how we do things? And so obviously with the increase in marketing and e-commerce efforts, there is, it's important to create some more formality around both of those processes. I think Katrina shared with you what a great job she and her team has done in terms of trying to create some consistency, create a calendar so people are all on the same page. That over time saves time and creates more efficiency. And so you definitely need to do that, but you're going to need to cross-train your people and really shift how they spend their time. So before, where they may have spent more time in the front of the house, let's just say, now it's more in the back of the house, right? You're processing your online orders, and you're processing, you're more active in that social media. It's not just posting your social media, you have to also engage in your social media, which means if someone comments, you want to comment back or respond. So, so you have to basically create more formality around those processes and create more cross-training so that you can have greater flexibility. People can adapt to the different needs of the business, but you also create a better customer experience, because then when a customer does engage with you and your store's staff, they can likely get somebody who's going to be able to answer their question without saying, yeah, I don't know the answer to that, we'll have to get back to you. And it just creates a more difficult engagement of customers. Consider collaborating with the departments on campus. Perhaps you can enlist students to work with you on a case study or a group project that will focus around creating supply chains efficiencies through online processing or marketing efforts. And therefore you get the chance of getting their great ideas, but also helping you understand how roles need to shift. And then this is just a summary of all the things we just kind of covered with you. I think the biggest thing that we have to shift is that we can no longer just be buying product. I think Katrina said it best. We are no longer just buying product. We have to really see it all the way through the process to the selling. And right now, online and marketing is the way that we get the outreach to the customer, so they know what we have, so they want to buy from you. So do we have any questions, Steve? Or?
Yes, great. Thank you.
Yeah, we just actually had one in chat here. So Kathleen asked, Katrina, how do you decide which type of posts you use for your promo? Stories, reels, IGTV, etc.
And again, I pretty much leave that up to the social media team. So we actually had to be very clear with the roles, because we have one graphic designer as part of ancillary services, and then we have two people which we've kind of seconded from different areas to manage Instagram specifically, and their roles are also split. So one person's sole focus is just Instagram Reels and creating Instagram Reels, and then the second person's focus is Instagram posts. So I don't dictate what whether or not they use stories or reels. It's really up to them. So I basically just tell them these are the things I want to promote, and that I want to have at least 3 posts and several Instagram reels per week, and they pick and choose what they want. So I pretty much am hands off with what types of posts that they choose.
So one thing I want to add to that response is that when we think about Gen Z, they are also more, when you think about training and cross-training, and if you have student workers or younger people on your staff, then it's better to create more like exactly what Katrina did. They created what the outcomes were. So when you create your goals for them, tell them what the outcome is. Don't tell them how to achieve it. They'll probably be able to figure out how to do that successfully for you if you give them the chance. So, so when you're shifting your roles and cross-training, you want to really shift towards achieving outcomes as opposed to saying, do these activities. Do we have any other questions?
It looks like you have covered them all. Sorry, let me just pop over. There might be one more in the Q&A. So Imelda's asking, what suggestions do you have for clearance items online, or did you save those for in-store only?
No, so that's a great question. So, so it's best to, once you have the customer on your website, then try to make it easy for them to identify what's clearance. So if you don't already have like a sale or a clearance on your navigation bar, then I would suggest that you put that on there, and then put all of your products, so they can still sit in their home department as a clearance item, but create that experience of having one place online where they can also shop for clearance or things that are on sale. And so utilize your navigation bar to create those kinds of buckets.
And to Denise's point, we didn't actually ever have a clearance section on our website pre-COVID. And that was, we used to sell all of our clearance items or broken sizes or discontinued items on a clearance rack outside the store, and they would just fly. So we tried to figure out what's the best way to try to clear some of this older stock. And we did create a clearance folder. And I always say to the social media team, if you're really struggling to come up with something to promote or a post, just focus on the clearance section. Just say, hey, new items added to clearance daily, check it out. So again, that's something that is always going to be there, and it's always good to promote that we're adding new items or that there's more discounts in clearance so that we can clear out that old stock.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so right now, everybody's getting less, there's less transactions happening overall. So the more that you can get them to shop more things on your website and making it easy for them and letting them grow their basket, then so you're increasing your dollars per transaction will really help you to increase your overall, converting that inventory to cash. And so creating it, again, a simple way in which to do that is recommended.
Great. Thank you so much, Denise and Katrina. I don't see any other questions, and we are at time now. So that concludes our session for the day. I want to thank you both. There were some really great takeaways on how to assess and rank your standing inventory you have in your store, and then our approaches as campus stores to our online merchandising and marketing integration. So thank you both so much for your insight today. On behalf of all the speakers presenting at this year's conference, we have been hinting that CSC is going to make a $500 donation to a charity that we've chosen, and we have settled on that charity. And so I'm pleased to announce that this donation is going to be going to First Book Canada. First Book Canada distributes age-appropriate books to disadvantaged children and young people across Canada. They equalize educational opportunities for students by removing one of the barriers to literacy, which is a lack of access to high-quality books. So thank you both so much again. We are back again tomorrow for 2 rounds of vendor presentation sessions. The first session starts at 11:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Just as a reminder, these vendor sessions are really important to Campus Stores Canada. Our vendor partners do provide a lot of support to CSE and to our industry. And just as it has been a hard year for us, it has also been a pretty hard year for them as well. So please do attend both of these sessions tomorrow, and let's show our vendor partners some support. Thank you so much, and we'll see you all tomorrow.
Great, bye, thank you.
Bye, everyone.